Western civilization. How much do you know? My name is Russell Miles, and this is the 5th episode of our Western Civilization series, and we're going to look at science, technology, and education. In the 15th century, Europeans took to the seas and began to explore and make contact with other cultures. They found themselves technologically superior to those whom they met. They were the only ones to develop a system of chemistry, possessed eyeglasses, built clocks, chimneys, and had a method of musical notation. How was it that the West had made such a great leap forward compared to other cultures, some of whom had made great advancements in science in the past? We're going to look at all these issues and more in this episode. Villo lived in Alexandria, which was at the time a Roman province. There were ethnic tensions with pogroms by the Greek community against Jews. Villo was seeking to reconcile the Greek way of thinking with Hebrew traditions. He argued that God had in place noble qualities in the human soul, and they were the only creatures endowed with a free will. Villo felt everything possible with God, but that God did not act outside the natural order. Villo was wrestling with an omnipotent God who allowed evil. This developed ideas that traditional views might be challenged and reinvented in the light of new experiences. It was Villo who said it would be a sign of great simplicity to think that the world was created in 6 days, which was mentioned at the end of the last episode. Aristotle and the other Greek philosophers asserted that humans can understand the world by studying physical phenomena and mathematics. This was awkward, as traditional gods were seen as erratic and indifferent to human beings. Aphrodite fought on the side of Paris during the Trojan Wars. Then her son Cupid teamed up to cause Zeus to fall in love with a human, and the queen of the Olympian gods, Hera, always carried a grudge. There was a cross path between Greeks, Judaism, and other cultures that may have spurned this new way of thinking. The Greek philosophers were to be an inspiration to the Western world. Nicolaus Copernicus was a Renaissance-era mathematician and astronomer. Which of the following did Copernicus not do? A. Military commander. B. Lawyer. C. Physician. D. Astrologer. E. Priest. And F. Economist. Nicolaus Copernicus developed a model of the universe that placed the Sun at the centre of the planets rather than the classic model which had the planets revolve around the Earth. Copernicus studied mathematics, natural philosophy, astronomy, medicine, and canon law. During the Teutonic invasion of 1520, he was placed in the command of a castle. He also reformed the state currency and did all these things while holding a position as a priest. While astronomers often made astrology charts to make money, Copernicus was comfortably well off. The answer is D. Copernicus was never an astrologer. There was initially scant controversy about a scientific theory that no longer held the Earth as its centre. Lutherans were to ascribe the theory as heretical, and the Catholic Church later banned it. But Western science was to advance rapidly after 1500 years of stagnation. We wish to speak in some way about the structure of the atoms, but we cannot speak about atoms in ordinary language. This was said by A. Robert Oppenheimer, B. Albert Einstein, C. Fred Hoyle, or D. Werner Heisenberg. Werner Heisenberg was a German scientist who made a wide range of significant contributions to physics. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for the creation of quantum mechanics. Heisenberg's achievements need to be seen in the light of the miracle year of 1906, when Albert Einstein published 4 astounding papers on physics. Einstein's work spurred a generation of scientists to explore new endeavours and apply these to practical purposes and even deeper understanding of our universe. Heisenberg was caught up in the politics of his era. He was a strident anti-communist, loyal to Germany when many eminent German scientists had fled the Nazi regime. There is controversy as to whether Heisenberg sought to impair any Nazi nuclear bomb program or that he lacked the ability. Regardless, the Germans never mustered the huge resources required. In the post-war era, Heisenberg stridently advocated for non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. In a government founded on the sovereignty of the people, the education of youth is the object of first importance. A people well informed on the subject of their rights, their interests, and their duties would never fall into the excesses which proved the ruin of ancient republics. Governor James Monroe, 1881. To throw obstacles in the way of a complete education is like putting out the eyes. Elizabeth Cady Stanton. True or false? The Scottish mechanical engineer and chemist James Watt invented the steam engine. James Watt's work on steam engines was pivotal to the Industrial Revolution. However, James Watt improved the atmospheric engine that had been invented by Thomas Newcomb, so that his engine used the energy from pushing a piston into a partial vacuum generated by condensing steam instead of pressure of an expanding steam. James Watt further improved the engine by providing a rotary motion suitable for various work. Newcomb's design was drawn from retired military engineer Thomas Savery's steam-powered pump. This device used pistons invented by the Frenchman Denis Papillon. A model steam-powered engine called an aeroleophile had been designed by Hero of Alexandria in the 1st century. Technological development in the West has been more incremental steps involving institutions, financing, and integrating scientific ideas. The UK WE-177 thermonuclear air-drop bomb of up to 200 kilotons was locked with A. An electronic 4-bit coded signal, B. Dual titanium keys, C. Not locked, D. A tubular pin tumbler bicycle lock. In the 1950s, the US military began to appreciate that their nuclear devices could be detonated without particular expertise, so they developed locks that required radio-encoded messages. Moreover, a failed attempt or even moving would wreck the bomb so it could never detonate. The US provided this technology to its allies and also some of its foes. But the UK seems to have preferred simpler methods to control its bombs. The answer is D, a bicycle lock. This illustrates that Western culture does not always lead to rational solutions. The Colosseum is an oval amphitheatre in the centre of the city of Rome. Originally known as the Flavian Amphitheatre, its construction began under the Emperor Vespasian. Funded by the spoils taken from the temple after the Jewish revolt in 70 CE, it took a decade to complete. It is one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world, with over 7 million visitors a year, who come to admire the huge amphitheatre which could hold 50,000 spectators, with water fountains at every level, complex tunnels, trapdoors and stages that could be raised and lowered. A weekly church service is also held at the amphitheatre in remembrance of the 250,000 to 500,000 people who were killed there. The Roman Empire built straight roads because A. This was the obvious route from point A to point B. B. Construction contracts had straight lines drawn on maps and builders were reluctant to deviate. C. Legionnaires could more quickly march up an incline than go around a hill. Or D. The roads mostly traversed flat terrain. The Roman Empire constructed an extensive road network. This included 29 highways and almost 400 major roads of around 400,000 kilometres, which 1/5 were stone paved. These roads were built to such a high standard that archaeological excavations have enabled their reuse for tourists and hikers. The road network linked Rome and provincial capitals, facilitating trade, messengers and the movement of troops. Some were strategic. For example, tin was mined in Cornwall, moved by road to Jubas, modern Dover, or Chichester, overseas to Gaul, and then by road to Marseille, and then by ship to Rome. Standards for roads dated back to the laws of the 12 Tables in 450 BCE, which specified the width and right to use private land. While these roads had straight sections and took more direct routes, they followed the contours of the land, went around hills, followed close lines with intersections and bends, along with impressive bridges, tunnels and viaducts. Roman construction had the advantage of extensive slave population to not just build roads but provide the agricultural labour force from which taxes were derived. The road network deteriorated in the medieval era due to the decline in trade and taxes to pay for them. The term Dark Ages refers to A. the cultural decline of the Roman Empire, B. the migration of Germanic people into Western Europe, C. the incursion of the Mongols into Western Europe, or D. the sacking of Rome by the Visigoths. The fall of the Western Roman Empire had disrupted trade and seen a decline of cities. Rome had always been an ineffectual city. At its height of between 800,000 and 1.5 million, it had required constant replenishment as malaria and abuse of its large slave population caused the death of about 1/10 of its population each year. The concept of a Dark Age originated with later-day scholars who romanticised the Roman period. However, it is better described as the migration era, with Germanic tribes moving into the eastern and northern Europe and then southward. This saw the establishment of independent kingdoms and republics. The Byzantine Empire also increased trade and established a rich culture which lasted for a further 1,000 years. This included innovations of quilted armour, silk, crop rotation, the fork, hydrological systems and windmills, along with remarkable manuscripts, artwork and the earliest cathedrals. The 10 oldest universities in the world are all in Western Europe. The University of Bologna was established in 1088 and taught both canon and civil law. Previously there were informal, familiar, tradition-based systems. These included Universitates Scholariums, which were gatherings of wealthy foreign students who hired scholars to teach them. The church and its monasteries had long maintained education programs, including secular subjects. Militaries and town authorities also trained engineers. If you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt, as far as possible, all things. René Descartes. René Descartes was a French philosopher, mathematician and military engineer who spent most of his life in the Netherlands. He is considered the father of modern scientific inquiry. Descartes argued that any problem must be approached with doubt. That is, don't make assumptions, question and be open to where the evidence takes you. He refused to be bound by earlier philosophical reasoning and questioned his own senses. It did not endear him to the church of the day, which held the ancient Greek philosophers in the highest esteem, but demonstrated the essence of good research. Mariam Mutahani was a highly gifted Iranian mathematician who migrated to the West to pursue her career and became a professor of mathematics at Stanford University. She made several contributions to the theory of modular spaces of Riemann surfaces. She married a Czech theoretical computer scientist, Jan Vondrak, and they had a daughter together named Anahita. In 2014, Mariam Mutahani was honoured as the only woman ever to be awarded the Fields Medal, the most prestigious award in mathematics. She was seriously ill at the time, having been diagnosed with breast cancer. Hassan Rouhani, President of Iran, in a congratulatory message said, "The entire Iranians, wherever in the world they are an asset to this land, and I, as a representative of the Iranian nation, laud your scientific efforts. I hope your life will always be filled with happiness and success." Mariam Mutahani died on the 14th of July 2017 at age 40. The front page of the Iran state newspaper, Ham Shari, contrary to tradition, included a picture of her without a hijab.
I want to get loops which don't have any subsections, and one way of basically producing meanders would be to write 2n, or n, as a1 plus ak, so it is ai in n.
Our next podcast will look at women, children and sex within the story of Western civilization. If you like this channel, please subscribe and tick like. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I can be contacted at email russmills@iprimus.com.au. Thank you for listening.